on something on the video for me to watch. And yep, we're good.
We're all doing our part to keep this part of North Carolina's coastal culture alive. I've been able to fish in different areas of the country. Here, it's one of the best, if not the best, year-round fisheries, in my opinion.
You know, everybody attaches to each pier on this beach for different reasons, and it's their home or it's where they've been coming since they were a teenager.
This is totally a fishing community, and the Outer Banks, fishing is what people come here for.
Good morning and welcome to Rising. We have a great show for you today on a hot and rather humid Washington, but I'm joined here by Robbie Suave, as always. How are you, sir?
I'm well. I was just looking into the screen and realizing we both went with the light blue. They don't exactly match each other, but
we're somewhat coordinated.
Yeah.
It's good to have some level of coordination. Enough common ground, enough difference, like the show.
like the show.
All right, Robbie, plenty to get to this morning, so let's get to it. What is on your radar?
Well, long-time viewers know there's one thing that I hate more than anything else in the world, and it's taxes. Taxes in all their myriad forms, especially income taxes. Though if I owned a home, I'm sure I'd hate property taxes just as much. And though the government at every level seizes more and more and more of our money every year, they manage to do less and less with it. In fact, our government is badly in debt, a debt we will leave to our children and our grandchildren, very sadly. That will be our legacy and our country's legacy. So the answer is clear. The government does need to generate more revenue, but it can't simply do this via
Close the door so I
taxation.
get
People
less
are already
sound
paying through their
interference.
teeth.
Be right back.
Enter our hero, data centers. Yes, that's right. Data centers can and do lower the tax burden for their neighbors. Just look at Loudoun County, Virginia, which has actually been able to lower property taxes every year for the last 10 years, according to Loudoun County's current budget. How'd they do that? Well, Loudoun County is the data center capital for all of America, the data center. There are more of these things built there than anywhere else in the country.
And they can have
Unlike
it.
too many
They can fucking have it. I don't want a data center where I live. It's gonna make shit hot.
Construction combined with the nefarious
The water will
activities
be
of foreign
polluted.
influencers
But he's
has
gonna counter
caused a
all of that.
backlash against them. In Loudoun County,
We'll see.
they welcomed data centers and the economic prosperity that came along with them. And the benefits are clear. They enrich the county to the tune of $1 billion each and every year. They create a lot of good paying construction jobs as well. And contrary to horror stories you'll see on social media about spiking electricity prices, Loudoun County has actually seen smaller increases than many other counties that don't have such a high concentration of data centers. So whatever electricity they're using, the data centers, they pay for it. Now this is important to note because we are currently experiencing widespread hostility toward these data centers. You might feel this as well.
Yep.
There's a massive public backlash.
No, I think we need data
on
centers. I
some
just don't want them where people live,
fear-mongering.
not where I
Now,
live.
some of that is misguided, but good faith concerns about the impacts of new construction on the local water supplies, the noise generated by the centers, although they're a lot quieter than you've heard, those sorts of things. But there's another dimension, and that's foreign influence. One think tank, the Bitcoin Policy Institute, has found that activist groups with links to the Chinese Communist Party have stopped $23 billion in new data center revenue by hijacking city council meetings and scaring everybody into voting against their own interests. It's unfortunate, but the fear-mongering works. It works on people on the right and people on the left, but really it's the left that is succeeding in making opposition to data centers a national issue. AOC is against them. Bernie Sanders has proposed a national moratorium, which is totally insane. That would constitute America shooting itself in the foot in terms of international competition. Our enemies, the authoritarian Chinese government, not going to stop contending with us to be the world champion of tech and AI. They want the infrastructure of the future headquartered in their country and thus subjected to aggressive censorship and surveillance. in line with their authoritarian communist outlook.
Build them out west.
This is not a fight we can afford
I mean,
to lose, but
No
thankfully,
one's.
building more data centers
I don't object to
is
data
win,
centers.
win,
Don't put
win.
them in
Good for
residential
America's
neighborhoods.
standing in
Build
the
them
world,
out
good
west.
for
We got
jobs,
all this
and good for us.
unused
Not
land
good.
out west.
Not
Build
good
it
for
out
Bernie
there.
Sanders and other far left activists because, simply put, they want to lose the AI race. Or if not that, then they are useful idiots of people who do want to lose. That's my challenge to you, the data center skeptic, if you fall into that category. Don't fall for propaganda. Instead, look to Loudoun County, which is getting wealthier and wealthier and wealthier because it said yes to innovation, yes to job creation, and yes to lowering the residents' property taxes. Sign me up for that.
You
Where
don't
do you
own any.
fall on the data? Because Lindsay hates them. And
Yeah.
her and I have this argument all the time. I've made her take the no data center pledge. So based on what you say, we'll have to make you take the pledge too. So go ahead
So,
while I prepare the pledge.
no, go ahead and prepare your pledge. Actually, though, I might be less, well, I am more ambivalent about data centers, basically. Because there's an argument incidentally going on internationally now about whether if other nations basically become anti-data center, do they get completely left behind in the new technological frontier of AI? Do you end up then dependent on primarily the United States or maybe China if you're that way inclined for AI uses? That being said, where I think I differ from your argument is that in the focus on taxes and on lowering taxes, it does seem to gloss over the genuine downsides to this in terms of water usage, electricity usage, and the noise pollution issue. I was speaking to a fellow journalist who'd been out to Virginia. I'm not honestly sure if it was Loudoun County or elsewhere, where residents are pretty irate about the fact that there is this, they now live with this constant loud humming in their day-to-day lives.
Exactly.
Because of the
No one wants a
noise
data
pollution
center in their
caused by a
neighborhood
nearby
the same
data
way no
center.
one wants a fucking
Now,
nuclear
Do you know,
reactor in
is
their
that worth
neighborhood.
a few
They're
cents off
useful-
your tax?
They're useful
I don't think
things,
it's made up.
but
They
not
seem
where
pretty-
people live.
They seem
Just
pretty
because something is
insistent
useful
that
doesn't
there's
mean
noise.
people want it in their
We hear
backyard.
noise outside. It's just like other people living on Earth is noisy. There's emergency vehicles going. Cars are noisy.
Well-
Is it noisier than the hum of traffic?
Well,
No.
Nobody wants
well,
that fucking
the point is,
constant
though,
hum.
surely that a
where
lot
you
of the
live.
places
No.
that they are built are pretty rural areas. You and I accept a certain amount of noise pollution, even though I dislike it, because we choose to live in cities. If you have gone out to rural Virginia to live a quiet country life, and Oracle or whoever, I mean, I don't know if
Right.
Oracle has data centers, but whoever has data centers just plonks some massive facility beside
These are
you.
in suburbs, not
Well,
near to suburbs, not like farm country where there's.
I still think the plain people of Virginia have a problem with the noise, Robin.
Well, look, obviously people have a problem with it, and I feel bad saying, well, your problems are invalid, but your problems are invalid. The water issue is a total mislead. They do not use significant amounts of water when compared to every golf courses in America, peanut farms. We use tons of water for all sorts of things, and then the electricity costs. They use tons of electricity, yes, but they pay for it. They're just like if you use more electricity, your bill's higher because they make it so the grid is more because their electric usage is consistent from month to month. They make it so the grid knows exactly how much electricity. They make it more regular, and so they can actually just decrease your like an unexpected spike in your bill. So I understand. Like nobody likes when something big gets built next to them, right? Construction is just annoying. So a lot of AOC was bringing her bottle of dirty water, yeah, because they hit some kind of pipe while they were building it, and that was certainly wrong. It has to be addressed, but that has nothing to do with the data, like the function of the building, right? That you could have done that putting in a new hospital or a new firehouse or a new whatever.
Yeah, but
Nobody wants that, but that doesn't mean we don't build
but
too many veto points on building new things. If the community gets to go, no, I want my idyllic farm community to never have. Well, I'm sorry, we got to build new stuff. You don't get to veto based on totally unreasonable concerns what I do with my property or whoever
Yes, you
owns the
do.
property wanted to lease it.
That's
to
the
someone
point
else.
of being a
but I
homeowner,
mean,
which you
don't-
are not.
First of all, like, is it actually your contention that local people who are objecting are basing those objections on like fake concerns. I mean, they are real concerns,
I think
right?
they're 97% fake concerns.
So why are they doing it in your judgment then?
People don't like any kind of construction anywhere near them, and will use every legal means at their disposal to. I mean, it's YIMBY versus NIMBY stuff, right? Oh, okay, where we want to build a new apartment building across the street. Is there any means to stop it? It casts a shadow over my house. Done. Stop. I mean, this is consistent in all municipalities where there's too excessive zoning or excessive community input or excessive historical building designation, so you can't sell your restaurant that's going out of business. You want to sell it, retire, and have an apartment building get built there. You can't do that because the county will say nope, can't do that. That's enemies of progress at work, and we must stop that. Sorry, people.
I know you like a good enemies of progress, Luddite kind of
I'm
argument.
progressive.
But I mean,
When it comes to building things.
look, I mean, I'm not going to pretend that the data center issue is one that gets me like massively fired up. It isn't, and I see arguments on both sides. I think where I disagree with you is I'm nowhere near as dismissive or disdainful of the residents' arguments, because I think there are genuine impacts upon their quality of life.
There is
And
some
I also
constant,
think that there is a broader issue of
constant
these
humming
massive
of
corporations throwing this
of generators in their
plant
back.
in
Like,
the middle of an
no.
otherwise
he said that's
otherwise fairly
to say that's an invalid
word,
concern
modest
is
or quiet
crazy.
areas, and just taking a kind of like it or lump it.
The only I said 97.
Shit like that will drive someone slowly
legitimate
insane.
concern I can see, although this really hasn't come up yet. I certainly wouldn't want eminent domain. I wouldn't want private property seized for this purpose or any other purpose. That has not come up yet, though. They're mostly leasing, and then also there's an issue. They're saying it's being leased to the data centers at like below market rate or something. Okay, but in the vast majority of cases, this land is not being used for anything else. So what is the like? There's no market. This land is just sitting empty and could be put to
Then
some
do it over in
economically
the
productive
do it
use. That yes is good for the
out
big
west
tech
and all those
companies.
little flyover states where there's
Much like
massive amounts of
sharing in
unused
the
land.
oil drilling
Build
in
them
Alaska,
there.
everybody in the state gets some kind of check. Sure, the people in the community can exercise their right to be compensated for the minor disruption of a little bit of humming or more water or whatever. They should be compensated. That's fine. Clearly, the tech people need to do that to get enough people on board with building these things, but
And the data center pledge is just
like
disingenuous
it's a public
anyway.
utility like anything else. We can't not building it is not a choice, right? Because China's going to build it, and we can't have them headquarter all of AI in a country where you won't be able to Google anything about Tiananmen Square.
Well,
Can't do it.
the Robbie Suave data center coming soon to a field near you.
Next time I'm going to make you take the pledge. You're close.
I'll say
You're
I'm on the bubble, on the pledge.
Okay.
We shall see. A big upset for Democratic Socialists in Wisconsin, plus Minnesota proving that a Trump endorsement isn't always everything Republicans need to win. We're breaking down last night's primaries, and that is coming up. We'll be right back.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I have been waiting for you. Blue Chew Gold works differently than what he used before.
He takes Blue Chew Gold
So-
under his tongue and lets it dissolve, and that's it. It combines 4 ingredients instead of
If
just
Blue
one.
Chew works
It
fine, why
supports
do you need
blood
Blue Chew
flow,
Gold?
Arousal, and
Are you trying
connection
to
at the same
you trying to
time.
kill
When something matters, you
trying to
invest
kill a
in it.
man with
Upgrade to the
with just a
strongest 4-in-1
super
formula
hard one?
at
Like
bluechew.com.
what? Like no.
When you stay with Choice Hotels, you get more of what you value. Like at the Comfort Inn, where kids value breakfast with options.
The DSA has been upsetting the Democratic establishment all year, but last night it was on the receiving end of an upset in Wisconsin. Democratic Socialist candidate Francesca Hong narrowly lost the Democratic nomination for governor to the more moderate David Crowley. She lost by less than a percentage point, according to DDHQ. Only about 3,000 votes separated the two in a race where nearly 790,000 votes were cast. Crowley's campaign put out a statement earlier this morning calling for unity ahead of November, writing, "David is focused on bringing people together, earning the support of Democrats, Republicans, Independents, and anyone who believes Wisconsin is at its best when we work together and deliver results." Well, there is a result, and he has won over Francesca Hong. What do you make of all that?
what I make is that the polling screwed up royally again.
Yeah.
Maybe Janet Mills should have stayed in that race against Graham Plattner. I don't know. What are the? You tell me, Niall. How are the lefties skewing these polls?
Well,
They're skewing them.
Well, I don't know. I would need to look at how recent some of those polls were.
They were not recent at all.
Yeah, see, that's, I think, part of the difficulty here, because to my mind, Francesca Hong was an outlier even among these recent candidates because of some of the things she had said publicly and her disinclination to back away from them until she was absolutely
Sure,
forced
but
to do
I'm
so.
a little surprised, honestly, how, if that's true, how badly the Thanksgiving comments seem to hurt her. I mean, I found them crazy, so it's not like it's not weird that hurt her, but you know, it didn't. What didn't? I don't know.
I think I think
Everybody was watching Fox News and Rising and all the blend and reading and on Twitter and was like, oh yeah, she's too crazy. I guess that's what happened. Okay.
So I think there are elements of truth to that, and I think those were further exacerbated by the fact that it was very notable that she didn't get the endorsements from those
she lost.
progressive movement, notably Bernie Sanders and AOC, who have endorsed El Sayed, for example. El Sayed does not define himself as a socialist, but was still the left-wing candidate against a more centrist candidate. So in Hong's case, I do take it as voters thinking, oh, she's just not electable. Even the Thanksgiving thing, she did eventually move away from it, but it wasn't, what we have seen in other cases, like perhaps El Sayed or Mandani, where tweets from 3 or 4 years ago are resurfaced, and there's an implication of like, well, I tweeted that, but I've changed my mind. Initially, she had defended the moral opposition to Thanksgiving, which I don't think was a politically astute move, to put it mildly. And to my mind, that means even Democrats who have an appetite for more progressive politics were like, I don't think so.
I mean, these things do come down a little bit to personality and vibes.
Sure.
And this is like so entirely subjective. It's hard to even discuss, but maybe she just didn't have it, and
she wasn't likable.
Did.
She comes off as unlikable.
I mean, absolutely.
She comes off as unlikable. She literally shitted on people for celebrating Thanksgiving.
I mean, I've been obviously
like,
aware of
bitch, shut up. You're not even American, you're Chinese. Like,
I had barely heard of her until maybe 3 weeks ago, Francesca Hong. And then the first thing
I'm sorry, she's American, but she's not. She's not a foundational American. She didn't have ancestors that came here
the argument
during that era of colonial America.
Or it makes a certain amount of sense, however, that
nobody wants to hear some
more radical
bitch from
in their choices.
Some bitch from China lecture people on celebrating Thanksgiving, a tradition that goes back to the colonial era,
for pundits.
Sure.
Which was made a holiday by Abraham Lincoln as a way of trying to get the nation to heal after the Civil War.
Yeah, that's an argument.
There is an argument for that particularly for governor, you're giving.
And she was like
but again, to go to the polling, Abil El-Sayed that dramatically underperformed that polling.
Democratic socialist
so has she.
Person. It would have helped if she's likable. At least you can say about Mandani, he's likable.
Pointing to who are the firms doing this polling? Are they just
completely
calling angry
disagree with
socialists?
Pretty much everything he stands for.
We talk about like the shy.
But he's at least affable. She wasn't affable. As a politician, one of the things is part of the part of the job is being likable. You have to be likable.
Expansion in
as a politician, you have to be likable. I mean, you should have learned that back in high school, running for class president. You have to be likable.
Foster a positive narrative of a particular race, right? So you have a left-wing organization commissions a poll from a left-wing pollster, and then it's like, oh, the progress is up 20 points, and you use that to create the sense of momentum. Now, I'm not saying that is what has happened in these cases, and there are mirror images of what I just described on the right, but the use of polling for that purpose has certainly increased.
Yeah. So, we'll see how this plays into the broader narrative about establishment versus left. I was just believing the polls. So last night when I talked about this on the Hills live stream, I was like, yeah, the establishment.
I would ask if people are tired of me watching the news
They don't.
while
They have no
I
energy. They have no
stream.
wind in their
But since it's
sails.
nobody watching,
They need
no one to
a
ask.
lefty socialist person
Which means
to
I'll watch what I
cost
want.
them.
Only reason I
some
watch
kind of
other stuff
race
is because
for them
it gets
to then they're gonna
copyrighted, so I have to
get
watch
mad and they're
YouTube
gonna
related
start,
content.
like fighting back. Actually,
Well, this is
this is not an example of that. I mean,
Right.
like if Abdel El Sayed goes down to defeat,
yeah.
that's gonna make there's gonna be the
He's probably
establishment
gonna win his
strikes back.
primary.
Right,
He
right.
comes
I
off
mean,
as
it's also
likable.
the thing where those
Francesca Hong did
narratives
not.
or theories have often proven wrong.
She comes
in
off
politics. I mean, I
yeah,
remember the
erratic.
argument even a week or two out from the 2016 presidential election from more moderate Republicans was, oh, Trump's going to get absolutely thumped by Hillary Clinton.
Right.
And we'll come back to this more inclusive, forward-looking, inviting to Latinos, softer and immigration party. It never happened.
But because you won.
Exactly.
If he had won,
Yeah.
that would have happened.
Yeah, no.
I fully believe,
Yeah.
if not for Trump's victory, it would have been the Republican Party would have just totally. They would have not. They would have taken. They were all set up to take that lesson. That no,
Right.
we blew this election because Trump stormed in here, took over our party.
Sure.
We're never going to let that happen again, or we'll fight him tooth and nail to stop it from happening again. But he was like, oh, never mind.
Yeah, exactly. So if El Sayed wins, if some of these candidates last night, we were talking earlier about the fact that there are actually mixed signals for the left because, of course, Peggy Flanagan won pretty easily in Minnesota, defeating a more moderate candidate in the shape of Angie Craig. So it is, I think, a bit. I just wouldn't extrapolate too much from the Wisconsin race.
Of course, that race was not on my radar at all. Maybe people in the state knew that that's the left candidate and that's the establishment candidate, or maybe they didn't know because that one's gotten zero scrutiny and hasn't gotten as much social media attention to help you know that that's that one and that's that one.
Well, although like a lot of voters still get a lot of their information from local news, and I think in Wisconsin, in Minnesota, they probably do that.
No, they get all their news from Rising. Meanwhile, Minnesota Republicans did reject longtime Trump supporter and My Pillow founder Mike Lindell in their gubernatorial primary. Take a look. This one wasn't as close, despite Lindell having the endorsement of President Trump. Marks the third Trump endorsement loss in 2 weeks. And people are going to be making a lot of that. I don't know that they should. This was kind of Trump endorsing a very close friend.
Yes.
Who has, had his back through thick and thin.
Through thick and thin and pretending that elections he lost were elections that he won, for example.
Yes.
My Pillow guy.
Well,
I think
the My Pillow guy.
Yes.
I forgot about him. He actually ran for office.
Standing down from.
That's funny.
This is going to shock you, Niall. Shock you to your core.
Yes.
He thinks there might have been something wrong with the count.
Does he? That's a shock and a surprise to us all. Who would have thought that Mike Lindell would have contested an election?
No one could have predicted this. I don't know that this says anything about Trump's dwindling endorsement power. I think it's just we came up against the limit. Well, Paxton wasn't the limit. This is the limit.
Well, isn't it in a certain sense the mirror image of Francesca Hong? Like Democrats, the Democratic grassroots is amenable to progressive choices, but they think she.
Looks like we froze. So I'm going to talk until it unfreezes. Unless this is frozen as well, but I don't think it is.
A bridge too far. The MAGA grassroots are
because I'm looking at it on my desktop,
Trump-friendly candidates,
as well as on my phone.
We found out how far, how much fast this roller coaster can go.
Sure.
People want it off at that point. There are the point that their brains were starting to melt and drain out of their ears. They said much more.
There are limits up.
Yeah. What a fun visual.
Exactly. Up next, I'll be looking across the pond at a special election happening in England. Stay with us for that.
He finally focused on something that he knows about.
Well, Niall, it seems like you're going to make me try to care about something happening in England, but this is a colorful character involved here, so what is in your notes?
I will do my very best to make you care about this one, Robin. There is a very exciting election happening tomorrow. It's not an American primary or a Senate race. It's a special election in England, a by-election, as they say over there. for the constituency of Clacton, about 70 miles northeast of London. Now, bear with me. I know you and Robbie might not be instantly fascinated by an English by-election, but perhaps this could be an exception, because these are the two leading contenders to win the seat in the British Parliament. They are this man on the right, Nigel Farage, leader of the Reform Party, and on your left, the self-described intergalactic space warrior, Count Binface. As you will note, Count Binface has a trash can, a bin on his head,
Stop playing.
hence Count Binface. Now, as for Farage, he's best known in British politics as the main driving force behind Brexit. To be fair to him, when he started talking many years ago about the United Kingdom leaving the European Union, that was regarded as a kind of a wild, fringe belief. And then, in the end, obviously, it happened. Farage is a figure who has capitalized on the polarizing nature of our times. He's an astute media operator who frequently surfs waves of anti-immigrant sentiment. He has terrible overall figures. He's more than 40 points underwater in that respect, according to YouGov. But he does have the solid backing of around 1 in 4 Britons.
So you got a candidate named Binface in the UK running, looking like Darth Vader, but wearing a trash can as a helmet.
In general, a big Donald Trump fan. But this is
I'm locked in. I'm not going to lie. I'm locked in. I'm locked in.
Binface is running on a platform focused on what we might call some novel issues. He wants to impose a price cap on croissants. He promises to build an affordable house, just the one, in the constituency. And he also has big plans for the men's restroom at the local pub, as he recently explained to Mehdi Hassan of Satay.
I pledged to move the hand dryer in the Crown and Treaty pub to a more sensible position because it was dangerous. It's far too close to the urinal. And this has gone like wildfire, Mehdi. It's become a national and international issue.
Even Mehdi Hassan can't sit there laughing.
Photos, and also you've got to be careful when you take them, of other gents' toilets around the world with similar problems.
Binface has bigger concerns too, and not all of them are entirely a laughing matter. The British monarchy, for example, might consider this proposal, though I suspect they won't do so for too long.
I say that the British people requisition royal palaces, except one of them. They can have one family, they can have one palace. The rest of them can be turned into shelters and refuges for people who need a roof over their head. How dare that one family have something like 6 or 7 giant palaces on the British taxpayer? What a symbol it would be to the world if they gave up Buckingham Palace. They don't even like it.
That, by the way, was from Independence in the Room. Count Binface is, of course, commanding plenty of coverage at home, and a story about English eccentricity has got a lot of pickup around the world too. But there is a somewhat serious backstory. The special election is happening because Farage, who held the seat in the first place, resigned it. He did so in a fit of pique, having come under pressure from the media over, well, money. It turns out that in 2024, Farage got a personal donation of £5 million sterling, that's about $6.75 million at today's exchange rate, from a crypto billionaire. The crypto billionaire in question, Christopher Harborne, is based in Thailand. The British newspaper The Guardian drove the exposure of that story, noting that Farage, who at the time was out of office and had said he did not intend to seek election, made a U-turn, quote, within weeks of receiving the personal gift from the Thailand-based businessman. Now,
I'll be based in Thailand too if I could be.
Illegal, and Farage has said it was given to him for personal security, or, as he put it, so that I would be safe and secure for the rest of my life. There is genuine debate as to whether the money should have been declared publicly or not. One way or another, Farage hasn't appreciated the media interest in his finances, as seen as in this confrontation with a reporter from Sky News, though we should be clear this is over a separate donation from a different person, not Harbour.
Was it a mistake not to declare the gifts from George Cottrell, sir?
You tell your bosses, you harass my family anymore, and I'll take you to serious consequences. That's what your organisation's done this morning. Go away.
Nigel Farage's reaction to questions about the financial support he received from a convicted criminal.
Was it a mistake not to declare the gifts, sir?
You not hear me? You have broken all the rules, Leveson and everything else. Cut.
Sky News has not contacted Mr. Farage's family over the story.
Anyway,
let's throw a penalty flag on the hospital monopolies and their abusive price increases. 4 times the rate of inflation. That's 15 yards.
Just a reminder when people want to think that
markups on cancer
Britain is so much more sophisticated than us. Man, their parliament is a fucking shit show. Like, literally,
federal transparency
Britain is
another 15 yards for deception. Tell Congress, stop the big hospitals.
Britain is literally just Boston wearing a good suit,
kind of a big deal.
wearing a nice suit.
You need to see all the
like
options.
if you look past,
see, she knows.
if you look past
Car Guru
the
is giving
RP
most new and used cars right in your hand.
dialect,
So
the
you know your
received
big
pronunciation,
deal is the
which
best deal.
stands for the
Car Guru,
received
the number one
pronunciation
most
dialect,
visited car shop.
which is the dialect of like,
Rare earth elements
the
power
aristocracy,
modern life. America once led their production. Today, nearly
or
all
even
come
BBC
from
English,
China.
which
It
is
doesn't have to
similar
be
to
that way.
RP, but it's more
Florida's
spoken
phosphate,
by
used to grow food,
middle-class,
creates a
college-educated
byproduct called
Brits.
phosphogypsum, stored for decades, rich in rare earths, and ready to meet
If they're
America's
not talking
supply
that way,
for decades. Learn more at phosphateinnovation.com.
you would hear how stupid some of the stuff they say.
anyways, under
Russell Brand is the best
Farage
example.
cracked in other ways too. He figured he had come up with a masterstroke. He presented his resignation and immediate bid for re-election as a fight back. The special election would purportedly show his populist appeal against the quote-unquote establishment. He would defeat rival candidates from Britain's more established political parties, prove the public didn't share the media's interest in his money, and emerge stronger. Except none of that worked. Britain's major political parties, Labour, the Conservatives, and the Liberal Democrats, are all boycotting the special election, condemning it as a Farage stunt to protect his fragile ego. That is Binface, an alter ego of comic John Harvey, as his main opponent. Alas, there are other lesser-known novelty candidates. There will likely be a split in the surrealist vote, but some polls have suggested Binface could get as much as 20% support in the election. Either way, Farage has let his own ego trip him up, and he's now facing well-earned ridicule in his race with a man for a bin for a head. It's a welcome summer reminder that there's still a place for the absurdists to puncture the pretensions of the powerful. So did I succeed in making you care about this important race, Robin?
I guess ever so slightly. I will say to begin with, I'm just totally humorless when it comes to novelty candidates.
Oh no, you don't like the novelty candidates.
No patience for them whatsoever.
It's fine British tradition.
Don't find them funny. That's true of your Count Binface. That's true of Vermin Supreme, the guy with the boot on his head in American politics. I'm just not amused by this. But fine.
I am. That doesn't mean I'm going to vote for them, but I am amused by it.
Little maneuver. I understand it now. It's man, you Brits in your just elections held at random times trigger. We hold the election like at the time when there's an election. You have elections whenever. It's very odd.
Well, first of all, before I get into trouble at home. Not you,
right? Yeah, you know what I mean.
The adjacent island.
Yes.
But anyway, it is. Well, I mean, we do. It's true that we can hold national elections at a time of the prime minister's choosing. But in this case, it's somewhat akin to somebody here resigning a seat, and there would be a special election. I think it is interesting that it has got so much attention worldwide just because of its bizarreness, which we see there on screen again. It is interesting to me that Farage here, I think, is almost universally agreed to have messed himself up. And that is unusual. It shows the limits of even politicians who are quite savvy, because I would not generally agree with Farage's views on very much at all. But I would certainly acknowledge that he is generally quite a talented politician and generally has had quite a lot of success billing himself as the kind of, in tune with the man on the street or the man in the pub.
Right.
And he's messed up here.
I understand why the Conservative Party is nervous about him, but the underlying issue doesn't seem that significant.
You're all good if people getting 5 million quid.
Oh, you say it's not illegal?
Well, it's not illegal. I mean, it's not illegal for someone to give someone else money. Now, Farage is arguing that it was private money given from one individual to another. What's the problem? There are parliamentary rules, and this is where it gets a bit more complicated. There are parliamentary rules about disclosure, just the way the FEC would have rules here. And the question is, was that within the time frame where he had to publicly announce it? There are then yeah, but you don't care about money in politics generally. So so that's why the American political system is as corrupt as it is, Robbie, and why on the other side of the Atlantic we try to fight for the integrity of these things. Very well.
Yeah.
Well, there we go.
Next up, all
Not very
YouTube
well.
videos from Abdul El-Sayed have been unearthed, and where he takes aim at fireworks, the Second Amendment, and football. Stick around. CNN's K-File has unearthed old YouTube videos from Michigan Senate candidate Abdul El-Sayed, many of which have been deleted or set to private.
In one video, El-Sayed reportedly expresses his disdain for fireworks, with the article from K-File saying he...
I disdain fireworks. I think it's for stupid people.
Detroit's post-fireworks air quality, the chemicals used in fireworks, their potential to trigger PTSD in veterans, and the risk they pose to children and pets.
I agree with him there.
Clips, El-Sayed argued that the southern border was not
especially when
Americans' 5 biggest concerns,
retards always want
and
to
lambasted
play with them
Republicans for focusing on
all night long.
In another, he floated, replacing the Second Amendment's right to bear arms with a...
I like it when only people in DC can have
And in
fireworks.
one episode that has not been deleted, El-Sayed showed apprehension about football, citing ethical concerns about its safety risks and linking the sport's ethos to slavery and manifest destiny. Following the report, El-Sayed's campaign suggested he doesn't hold all those same views that he did in the deleted videos, and a campaign spokesperson said, quote, Abdul is the former captain of his high school football team, loves Michigan football on Saturdays, and celebrates the 4th of July with fireworks like the next Michigander. Cherry-picked comments from old podcasts don't reflect his beliefs today. All right, okay, maybe. A lot of podcasting, a lot of views, and we can just say, oh, that doesn't represent me. Look, some of those things are more controversial than others.
Right,
like
exactly.
If you're, if you'd have reservations about your kid playing tackle football, that's different from saying it's because it's ethos of slavery and blah, blah, which is ludicrous. I mean, fireworks is one of those things. This is why I'm like a libertarian and freedom-oriented in general. Obviously, people should be allowed to shoot off fireworks, especially on like a holiday.
Yeah, and
if I
if people want to go ahead and destroy their
I wouldn't care that much.
their faces
and
and lose
dogs,
fingers,
but also dogs are
have at
people,
it.
and dogs don't
But
have
it's
rights.
stupid.
So you're just barking up the wrong tree. If you're all anti-firework, is what I would say.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not personally I need fireworks all the time. I just see how that's probably a bad and wrong opinion.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
No, I mean, look, first of all, to start off on a personal note, you know the way many people have different sort of irrational phobias? The only one I have is fireworks.
Really?
I'm scared of fireworks.
That's funny.
Yeah. So
You and my dog, Caesar, who has passed away subsequently, but would just crawl would lose his mind during fireworks. Kind of burrow under my skin.
I'm pretty sure this was because, with all due respect to my parents, I was taken to a fireworks display when I was very, very young and was terrified, and I've never quite got over the fear of that. So I would be more likely to vote for Mr. El-Sayed if I was in Michigan on his fireworks opposition. But I guess the broader point is, taking quotes from podcasts, I mean, it's a valid journalistic inquiry.
It
That
is.
said, if
I mean, this on a
I
podcast.
stood for office, perish the thought. I'm sure people could clip
If I
full
later run for
episodes of
office
Rising in a way that would be
or become a celebrity,
isolate topics
what
and
I say
comments
on
that
these
would be
live
pretty
streams
damaging for our electoral hopes.
is
And
Well, but that might be
a
that's
legitimate
fair.
can be a legitimate a legitimate criticism
And I'm sure I do hold
of
views.
what I
I
believe.
did a radar on how great
And
data
I'll
centers
answer
are in
to
your
it
idiot for
whether
not wanting them.
that's where I
And that's
stand
politically unpopular, and I can't be elected
or
as
not.
well.
yeah, no, absolutely. But
And whether
I think that some of
truly,
these, like you say, are more controversial
held
than
those
others.
beliefs or not.
And one of the things that people get, I suspect, quite irate about is the constitutional, it would be better to have a right to healthcare than a right to bear arms. I mean, that seems to me like just a sort of dramatic or figurative way of saying that you think healthcare is more important than the right to bear arms, which is quite a standard democratic belief. So I mean, is he really now proposing the whole cumbersome process of changing the constitution to remove the right to bear arms? I have said here before, I'd be fine with that, but I think the chances of it happening soon are very limited. He's just using that, it seems to me, as a dramatic device to say healthcare is more important than guns, which most Democrats believe.
Well, sure, but those aren't. It's also not a fair comparison, right? The Bill of Rights is a restriction on government action that infringes on your right to do something. Like, this is not a right to health care would actually create an obligation on people then to provide health care services. It's not, so that's different. Like, the right to bear arms just says the government may not stop you from having guns. The right to speech says the government may not stop you from speaking, not stop you from practicing a religion. The government may not search your property without a warrant. The government may not compel you to testify. Restrictions on government behavior is what is in the Bill of Rights. A right to health care. What would I don't charge. I mean, I know you want there to be health care.
Exactly.
I don't find negative versus positive rights, but rights, in my libertarian view, is just not a good. Is not the correct framework for thinking of benefits you want the government to, or services you want the government to provide that are themselves actually require voluntary action on the part of other people.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point, certainly, when it comes to the Bill of Rights and the nature of the Bill of Rights. I think that, I have said numerous times, excuse me, that I think there should be universal health care, government supplied health care, as there is in every other developed nation on earth, but not the United States. So, El Sayed stands by his support for Medicare for all. I don't think he's really, at this point in time, seeking to enshrine it in the Constitution. The football thing, I think, is potentially a bit more damaging in a cultural sense. Yeah, exactly. Not like to your point, not in relation to the potential
we all have
brain damage and all those concerns, but like the sort of it's somehow tied up with metaphors for manifest destiny. I don't think that will go down well anywhere in the U.S., but particularly not your native Michigan, where they like their football.
Right, we like Michigan football. He is a native Michigan, and he's a University of Michigan person as well.
Right. Yeah.
We like our Wolverines quite a bit. Next up, President Trump vowing to personally fight one of Zoran Mamdani's signature proposals. Stay with us.
So what?
President Trump is threatening to challenge one of New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani's key proposals, the shared care tax.
The special tax would apply to secondary homes worth $5 million or more and co-ops worth $1 million or more, while a judge... You kicked something under your...
kicked my water bottle. Sorry,
Niall.
We should not tax some people kicking bottles during TV.
Yes, we should. Nevertheless, while a judge on Staten Island ordered an emergency pause on the tax earlier this week, Trump indicated on Truth Social he's looking for ways to stop it himself. He wrote in part, "I am looking to see if the federal government has any legal right to avert this disaster before it is too late for the millions of people who cherish New York and want to see it thrive, as opposed to becoming a filthy, crime-ridden, decrepit place of mockery and scorn." Trump using some big words there.
Go back and kick my bottle again.
Yes,
outrage
you were
about that.
anticipating.
I was anticipating a Trump tweet or a Trump truth.
I know, because you just love taxing everybody. More taxes, tax.
I'm all in favor of providing services to people who need them in New York City by taxing people who are wealthy enough to have $1 million or $5 million second homes a modest amount. Mr. Mamdani's proposal is, as we say, covering second homes valued at a minimum of 1 million and in some cases over 5 million. And the tax in question is around 4%. I think that is a very modest proposal. I think it will be put to good use on things like childcare and other Mamdani policies. And I think it is a very, very long way from some Marxist-Leninist takeover of the finest city in the United States and perhaps the world.
Well, let me hit you with some facts, Niall.
Some facts back.
I see, reporting from the New York Post that
I'm always a fair source of Mr. Mamdani.
The average rental price in New York City has reached an all-time high of $6,655 a month. That's the average price. That is a insane price.
Well, because so many people want to live in Mamdani's New York, Robert.
No, it's because more so than the pied-à-terre tax, it's the rent freeze.
Wow.
And that limits supply. As you know, it's simple supply and demand. So because we're constraining the supply, people don't want to rent, given what Mamdani is doing. There's just less supply overall. And it goes like this every single time. If you try to do controls on price, you get shortages. And if you don't do that, you get more availability. Zoran is conducting an experiment we've already done many, many times. We can do it again for posterity, I guess, where there will not be enough places to live in New York. I mean, that's $6,600 a month average. It's crazy. Even in D.C., where rent prices are astronomical, I'm balking at that figure. And
well,
I know we're people of means.
Yes. No. Look,
I'm not out here starving. I wouldn't pay that price.
I mean, I lived in New York for almost a decade when I first came to the U.S. I miss it still. I think it is genuinely a fantastic city. And you were saying about things that happen again and again.
Live there.
Oh, you don't know what you're missing, Robert. Fantastic place. I'd take the Acela right now if I had some reason to go there. But the point is, rents in New York have been rising sharply forever. I can't now remember what I paid, having left there in 2011. But the idea that increases in the rent price are applicable purely to rent control, I think, is highly disputable in the case of New York. And I think that in general, Mamdani is seeking to make the city more livable by many of these measures. And kicking bottles, I'm throwing postcards.
Throwing everything.
Must be my excitement of it, talking about New York and Zoran Mamdani in one second. But look, there is obviously a problem with affordability. That is one of the reasons why he was elected in the first place. One of the reasons why he came from obscurity to beat Andrew Cuomo, who we have many reasons to dislike. And he won.
After this, I'm gonna segue into something more fun.
I think it is
talking about how all these recent movies flopped. Not Spider-Man. Spider-Man did well. I watched it.
Standards. And his pied-à-terre tax takes hold and is a
When did I see that?
and
Saturday.
all that marvelous money we can
Saturday.
use to provide services for people.
Saturday. I watched it
Escape from New
Saturday.
York in real time. People will flee for their lives.
We will see how many people really flee New York.
And it was
Meantime,
great. I watched it
Mamdani
Saturday.
tried to
I
fight
might
the suit that led
do
to
a
that emergency cause,
review on
and he
that.
defended the new tax during a press conference earlier this week.
Not a review,
We are
but
confident
I
in our
might talk
position,
about the
and that is a
movie.
confidence coming from both the
Again,
legality
I'm not going to
of
spoil
the
the
city's
movie.
actions, as well
Like I
as the
said, I'll give it
importance
2 weeks.
of a surcharge on secondary homes
Unlike
worth more than
the
$5 million.
YouTube film reviewers.
A surcharge that will help fund safer streets, that will help fund stronger schools, and it will help fund the city that New Yorkers deserve.
Safer streets, better schools, the city that New Yorkers deserve, Robert. See, that's what we need. For only this, not imposing a 20% tax on anybody, not hitting anybody who doesn't have a $1 million second home. You say
It doesn't work. That doesn't work.
You kept it secret from me. Neither of us.
There's not
have
enough wealthy
second
people
homes,
in
certainly not
America
worth $1 million.
to fund
There we go.
everything that these people want to do. Much less New York City.
Big government politicians and bureaucrats gave data middlemen access to your
They
financial
already
information without requiring them to keep it safe. A
the wealthy
new
more
Trafalgar
heavily.
poll shows they're wrong. Nearly 75% of voters are concerned about financial information being accessed without
This
their
is why the
approval.
savvy ones put
86% of voters say data middlemen
their
must
wealth
meet
into
bank security standards.
unrealized
Mr.
capital
President, those
gains
are
instead
big,
of
beautiful
income.
numbers. Open banking doesn't require open access on Americans' financial data.
We're doing our best to make sure every Whopper is your best Whopper, but we know mistakes happen, and we're here to make it right. If your Whopper isn't...
What was I was just so struck by anger and wow. If more money was the magic solution to the schools, then the New York City schools would be the greatest schools on planet Earth, at least in the United States, because no district, no municipality spends more per student to educate than New York does, and still it has middling or even poor results that people are not satisfied in. In fact, results that had not gotten stronger over time with math and reading scores. That's a countrywide problem, not going up despite more and more money being spent on the problem. Although I saw this fact the other day. It's somewhere, some county, I can't remember. They got a data center, and the data center people gave all the teachers got a $50,000 bonus for the year because of the data centers sharing the wealth. I thought that would make you more amenable.
I'm all in favor of more money for teachers. I would actually, to be serious, have make disciplining teachers easier than it is in New York City. One of the difficulties in New York is there is an enormously onerous process to get rid of bad teachers. And although I am
the rubber rooms,
yeah, exactly, where people can be basically paid and kept on for a very, very long time when a very elongated disciplinary process plays out. Data centers, if they want to give $50,000 to teachers, I think that is, broadly speaking, a good thing. I'm always wary of de facto bribery from business interests trying to do things not in the interest of the community. But more money for teachers seems to be in the interest of the community, so good for them.
Well, we've got another minute to go, so...
Will we talk about how great Mr. Mandani is?
I want to bring up something about him. I just saw that clip of him speaking like 10 years ago about the Lion King or whatever, some project he was involved in, where he sounds...
Sorry, I'm looking at something
He has a very...
online.
He's a stronger accent.
Like a much stronger accent. Like it's not even in the same ballpark. I don't know what to make. He's clearly consciously tried to sound like he does not have an accent.
Yeah.
It's
not
egregious to me.
Not a problem that I suffer from, at least, whatever my other flaws. Look, I mean, firstly,
it felt a little bit dishonest after I heard what he used to sound like.
Well, that's the argument against it. I naturally take a fairly lackadaisical view of this. Look, some people adapt to the accent of where they live quicker. Other people, particularly in some career in public life or public-facing life, take accent reduction lessons, like literally try to ease their accent. This idea that it's some sort of evidence of fakery, I don't really go for that.
I was shocked at how dramatic the change was. Obviously, like, Haley Stevens was laying it on a little thick in that primary. We've heard Hillary Clinton do that. I've heard AOC lean into her Latina roots when she pronounces
a Latina friend of mine hates that tendency on AOC's part, much as I would defend her, but that tendency to give it the full Latina blast.
Right, it's all fine, but that caught me by surprise.
There we go.
That does it for us on. Look out for more exclusive YouTube content coming your way later today, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Hills YouTube channel so you never miss any content. And for those of you who like to listen while on the go, we're now available anywhere you listen to podcasts, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.
We quilt this city.
Next video, now we're going to watch something fun.
No matter how much of a sure thing a given movie might be, there's always a teeny tiny possibility that a film ends up a surprise flop for one reason or many
Most of the time, it's no surprise.
But on the flip
Except for
side, there
the
are also
delusional
those
people
movies that
defending
like
it.
anyone can tell is gonna bomb and bomb hard. Maybe
There was no
even
surprise
months
Supergirl was
or
going to be a
even
flop.
years before they
Superman
finally come
didn't do
out
well.
and prove everyone
A derivative
right.
character based on
Hollywood,
Superman is
this
not
is
going to do
what
better
culture,
than a
and here
Superman
are
film.
a whole bunch of recent box
Especially
office
when you
flops
introduce her in a
everyone
cameo
saw
on
coming.
Superman as some little
Star
drunk,
Wars, The
retarded bitch.
Mandalorian, and Grogu. While there's no denying that Star Wars is one of the most iconic intellectual properties in cinema history, it's been going through something of a rough patch since the series' last feature film, The Rise of Skywalker, landed with a third of indifference from many fans. Or, in my case, pure contempt. But it did also give us claws, so, you know, snakes and ladders. And though The Mandalorian TV show was a certified smash hit on Disney+, it was always going to be a struggle to convince all but the most die-hard of Grogu appreciators to leave their house for a big screen continuation, especially after the Book of Boba Fett and The Mandalorian Season 3 ended up being not at all good either. Oh, how that show lost its way. Anyway, it also didn't help, of course, that the marketing for The Mandalorian and Grogu was pretty bad, failing to distinguish it from the Disney Plus show in any meaningful way. Because, yeah, absolutely nothing we saw in the trailers or that weird Super Bowl TV
I haven't even wanted to watch it for free, and I can watch it for free right now. I'm not a casual Star Wars fan. I am a hard, dyed-in-the-wool Star Wars fan. I still don't want to.
That's precisely what mostly everyone seemed to do, as the film is set to top
And I loved The
around
Mandalorian when it first came out.
$50 million
Even though the third
worldwide,
season was
making
trash,
it the lowest
I watched all
grossing
3
live-action
seasons.
Star Wars film of all time.
Watched the
falling
first 2
well below
seasons
the
twice.
$393 million haul of Solo, a Star Wars story. And that movie is underrated as hell.
Solo, a Star Wars story, is not good,
there are
but it's
issues
probably
with it,
still
but
better than
overall,
Mandalorian and Grogu.
I'd take like 1,000 Solos over Mandalorian and little Gizmo ripoff, to be honest.
He is
I think
a Gizmo
that's a
ripoff.
better deal for everyone involved. Because,
It really
yeah,
is a Gizmo
Mandalorian and
ripoff.
Grogu is basically the most deliberately middle-of-the-road film ever. But, hey, I guess that's what happens when you're so afraid of being anything even remotely controversial. You get Jeremy Allen White as a space slug crying about his dad, Jabba the Hutt. I'm not like my dad, Mando. Oh boy. 28 years later, the Bone Temple. The moment that the end credits rolled on last year's 28 Years Later, many suspected that the consecutively shot follow-up, 28 Years Later,
I watched the
Bone
first
Temple,
2 movies.
might pay for the sins of its intentionally polarizing ending. And who boy? Yeah, they sure were right. Though 28 Years Later grossed an impressive $151.3 million against a $60 million budget, seemingly guaranteeing the franchise's resurrection, the Bone Temple failed to replicate this success, topping out at a brutally disappointing $58.5 million, in turn failing to even fully recoup its price tag, which is so annoying because it's like the best movie of the year. Still, to me, I know the Odyssey is like also right there, but the Bone Temple has Ray Fiennes. Ray Fiennes in Up the Joint, and he's wonderful, and yeah, really annoyed it bombed. But while yeah, I'm obviously annoyed that it bombed, I can totally understand why. It can be attributed to the previous film's maybe audience alienating finale, but also the decision to release the Bone Temple less than 7 months after its predecessor, alongside marketing that failed to sufficiently distinguish it. Like, is it a sequel? Is it a spin-off? Is it necessary? Is it unnecessary? Just a bag of crap in terms of messaging. And the worst part about this is that it means that the status of a third Cillian Murphy starring 28 Years Later film remains somewhat up in the air, with Sony presumably mulling over whether it's actually still worth their while. Super annoying. Again, it's like my personal favorite film of the year. It should have, if they waited to drop it in spring, maybe it would have been a different story, but annoying. Mercy. Perhaps no film in recent years has been more of a blatant January dump than Mercy. A Chris Pratt and Rebecca Ferguson starring sci-fi thriller which was quietly sloughed into cinemas at the start of the year with basically a little toot, a little trumpet toot going.
So I've never even heard of it.
That's the But yeah, from its chintzy AI-centric narrative to the fact that Pratt and Ferguson were seemingly never in the same physical space during filming, yeah, this had all the makings of a low-rent, high-budget dud that was being sent out to die. All the more so given that director Timur Bekmambetov hasn't had a hit since Wanted way back in 2008.
And Wanted wasn't a good movie.
With violent storms closing hundreds of
Wanted
cinemas
was
in
not
North
a good
America
movie.
on
That
its
shit was
release
trash.
weekend,
It
terrible
was just
reviews,
funny
and a
seeing them
hefty
spend these
$60 million
bullets.
budget, and also where'd that money go, making its
So
climb
much
to
so the
profitability
Mythbusters had
even
to
more arduous.
test whether you could actually
Mercy
make
topped
bullets
out
curve
at an
in midair.
abysmal $54.6 million worldwide, and then vanished into the pop culture ether in a mere matter of weeks. Long may it be forgotten. The death of Robin Hood. You know, there might have been a version of a Hugh Jackman starring Robin Hood film that posted gangbusters box office numbers, but it's also fair to say that general audiences are pretty much Robin Hooded out with how oversaturated the property has been on both the big and small screens in recent years, and also because loads of those recent projects have been pretty stinky. Which is really annoying because a Robin Hood movie directed by Michael Sarnowski, the guy who did Pig, should be like a day one watch for everyone. Because Pig, I love Pig. Pig good. You can put that as a quote and attribute it to me. That's Pig good. So yeah, despite the involvement of Michael Sarnowski, who both wrote and directed the movie, a dreary A24 produced gritty old man Robin Hood film just wasn't what general audiences seemed to be interested in. And also, I do think the trailers for this movie were incredibly cliched and generic. It didn't really lay down the kind of the pace and the tempo, the depth of feeling that they were trying to conjure here. It made it look more like Logan if it was in medieval times. Which again, Logan, great movie, but audiences want to see something new, and if you're just marketing your cool movie as like a generic revenge thriller, then that's kind of pretty dull. And so, even with its mere $20 million budget, Sarnowski's film grossed just $7 million worldwide, making it one of the year's biggest flops in terms of budget to profit.
That is
I know
nothing.
it's yet to release in a whole bunch of territories, including
That's what it made
UK,
worldwide?
Oof. Big oof. Also,
You could get a porn movie to make that
critical reviews were wildly mixed, while audience ratings were outright hostile, ensuring that even the die-hard cinephile set couldn't help nudge it into the black. Masters of the Universe. Masters of the Universe.
This was not a predictable
surefire flop for one reason. Why would anyone think that He-Man had enough cultural cachet in the year of our Lord 2026 that 170 million Earth dollars should be spent rebooting it?
Because a bunch of Gen X and elder
even with the talented Travis Knight in the
elder
director's chair,
millennials
Knight
love
directed Bumblebee, which was really good. It didn't seem likely he'd convince enough people to leave their house for, again, a He-Man movie of all things. Like, I hate to say it, He-Man heads, but He-Man is not Transformers. Does not have that longevity. It's so distinctly 80s in terms of its vibe, and I don't really think that it works anymore, which is a shame because the movie was pretty fun overall, but not really going to inspire a phenomenon because the He-Man toy line as well just hasn't had that consistency like G.I. Joe or Transformers. It's a whole big mess. Annoying. But let's imagine an alternate reality for a second. Maybe the movie would have stood a chance had Sony made it about a decade ago during the post-Guardians of the Galaxy boom period.
They really should have made it 10 years ago.
CGI-heavy action-adventure tentpoles. But
do agree
in
with
the
that.
post-pandemic
It would
landscape,
have done better
this
10
was
years
just
ago.
a far riskier proposition.
Wait until
Couple that with
2026 to
reviews
make
that were
it.
just fine and hefty competition from the 6th century into the scary movie franchise, and Masters of the Universe was a gargantuan flop, grossing just 140 million and instantly killing any lingering hope.
140 million
of an
is still more than
ongoing
Supergirl.
franchise. Who has the power? Well, tragically, not this movie. The Bride. Maggie Gyllenhaal's bold reimagining of Bride of Frankenstein just had so much working against it. For one, there were months and months and months of reports about The Bride suffering through poor test screenings and expensive post-production tinkering as a result. To say nothing of the fact that Gyllenhaal's film was an intentionally off-kilter reworking of the iconic story to ends that alienated more casual genre
reunited
There's also probably
Bruce
some
Wayne
Frankenstein
and
fatigue,
Rachel.
given that Guillermo del Toro's successful take on the novel released just a few months prior. And with a massive $90 million budget, it just didn't seem likely that enough people would head out to see something so willfully transgressive and gnarly. But it got even worse, because The Bride opened to less than half of industry projections, being beaten out by both Hoppers and Screen 7, before topping out at a disastrous $24 million globally. While Gyllenhaal's career will hopefully be fine once she bounces back with another acclaimed low-budget drama like The Lost Daughter, I wouldn't expect her to get a big fat blank check like this anytime soon. Crime 101. Crime 101 was rather puzzlingly sent out to die by Amazon and Sony despite actually being good. Well, good-ish. It's like a throwback to the kind of movie we've been missing for far too long, but still not as good as those movies were back in the 90s. So, kind of good-ish, I want to say. Words not work for brain now. Moving on. This star-studded thriller from terrific filmmaker Bart Layton, the guy behind The Imposter and American Animals, hit cinemas back in February with suspiciously minimal marketing, which, combined with a generic title and trailer that painted it as a sort of Heat knockoff, didn't exactly sell it well to the masses. And on top of that, the review embargo lifted just 2 days before it hit cinemas, where to the surprise of many, it received largely positive reviews. So they basically just killed any sense of hype or momentum they could have generated from all the positive press it was getting. Really dumb. It seemed as though most audiences had made up their minds.
So you got Hulk in it, Thor in
ensuring
it,
the film ultimately
Catwoman
grossed
in
just
it.
$72.9 million
Yes, I speak
globally,
of actors
falling
based
far
on their
short of
superhero.
recouping its $90 million price tag.
Superhero
Well, it's clear
characters
where
they
a
play.
lot of that money went. Crime 101 is yet further proof that the
But not the good
mid-budget
Catwoman,
genre
it's the
film
Halle Berry
has a
Catwoman.
really tricky
who's not
sell in the current theatrical climate. Moana. Even though Disney's live-action remakes of their classic animated films have generally performed incredibly well at the box office, much to my
I actually thought Moana would do well.
detriment, it was easy to be skeptical about the prospects of the recent Moana remake for one big reason.
I
The
thought it
original
would at least
movie
make its
is
money
still
back.
so damn recent, and also actually 2 reasons what's going on with Dwayne Johnson's hair, and actually 3 reasons where are his nipples, and 4, in fact, what's going on with Dwayne Johnson? What is bro doing? So yeah.
AWS AI is helping businesses think bigger. It's transforming lifelong learning with Pearson. Turning race day data into real-time insights for Formula One fans. And reinventing the journey for every United customer. How will AI revolutionize your business? AWS AI is how.
Yeah, since I have absolutely no one I think there's one person watching, but since really no one's watching after this video, I'm gonna end this. But it's like a 30-minute video, so it's still got a little ways to go.
So yeah, in case you've forgotten, the
Moana's so
animated
recent,
Moana,
it didn't
which
need a
is
live-action
fantastic,
version.
released in
You just had Moana 2
2016,
come out.
ensuring that many simply felt there was little necessity in a
My
remake,
niece still talked about
especially one that appeared
first
to
Moana.
basically be
Like
rehashing
that.
the original film shot for shot with less personality. The marketing made it abundantly clear that this would be yet another remake that stripped away the color and visual splendor of the source material in favor of a washed-out, sludgy aesthetic, which audiences, thankfully, finally appear to be growing tired of. Then there's the fact it released within spitting distance of 2 far
girl who
better
plays her
received
seems
films,
nice.
Toy Story 5 and Minions and Monsters, ensuring there was little oxygen left
Toy Story made it
for
good.
Moana. All the more so once the negative reviews came tumbling on
And
in.
you know Minions is going to
Thank
make a
God,
billion.
to be honest, because this trend might be the worst trend in movie history. Maybe. I'm sure there are actually worse ones out there that just aren't coming to mind right now, and also there's like all the AI slot boom that we're getting too, but I need this to be the end of them. I know it won't be because Lilo and Stitch made a crap ton of money the other year as well, but it would just be nice to have the hope that we won't get any more of these.
But Lilo and Stitch was a much older film, so I can see them making a live action version of it because Lilo and Stitch came out in what, 2003?
to $125 million, an outcome that anyone who's paying attention saw coming miles away. Justice, sweet, delicious justice. Shelter. Now, to be completely fair, Jason Statham actually has an impressively robust track record where box office is concerned, and he's one of the few long-tenured action stars not named Tom Cruise who can still draw audiences in on name alone. While on paper,
Yeah,
the
Tom Cruise is
most
like the
recent
last
action thriller
action
Shelter should have
hero.
been another easy win. It had one big problem working against it from the jump. It was being distributed
Jason Statham is still
by
trying to
Black
stay in there.
Bear Pictures. But Ewan, who are Black Bear, and why are they making Jason Statham so unappealing? Well, you see, Black Bear has racked up quite the pile of flop releases in recent years, so it was kind of easy to see that Shelter, even with the might of the state being in front of it, would be yet another commercial dud. And indeed, Shelter went on to gross just $53.9 million against its $50 million budget, falling far short of the grosses of Statham's two previous films, A Working Man and The Beekeeper, the latter of which made over $162 million worldwide.
I still haven't
which is
seen
mad.
Beekeeper. I
It's good, but
keep
it's
hearing
mad.
people talk
A
about
slight
it.
consolation prize
I might
here,
have to
though,
watch
is
that. It
Shelter
might be
did
good.
perform well on streaming, which is a fairly common outcome for dad movies like this. Which, come on, dads, we need
It's
you
a
out
dad
there
movie.
on the front lines, in cinemas.
Masters of
Do
the
it
Universe
from
was
the
a dad
Gargle.
movie.
Please, we need you out there. Don't abandon your local cinema. Jackass, best and last.
That was another Jackass movie?
has been an impressively consistent franchise at the box office, largely thanks to the reality comedy series' low-budget conception, ensuring the first 5 films in the franchise have collectively grossed over $550 million globally on a budget of barely $60 million. That's good eating. Yet there was an unmistakable feeling of perfunctoriness about the latest installment, Jackass Best and Last, which smacked of one last effort to milk the cash cow before Johnny Knoxville and his beloved band of boneheads hung it all up for good.
I mean,
This
how
was
can you
unaided by the news shortly before the film's release.
after the
that
first
Best and
one?
Last would mix
What else can you
stunts
do? Like
with
after the
footage
first
of
2 movies,
classic
Jackass
ones,
was just
enough that some critics called
Jackass
it
was
a
perfunctory after the
glorified
first 2
flip show,
movies.
which is not the label you want going into a new release. And while the sequel received broadly
After the first
positive
movie.
reviews overall, it
Not even
failed
the
to
first,
bring
just
out
the
the
first movie.
series' reliable fans,
Same
who,
thing.
perhaps being aware how little original footage was in the movie, decided to wait for streaming instead. Though its low $10 million budget keeps the film from being a complete disaster, its current $27 million gross makes it the lowest grossing Jackass since the first, which topped out at a respectable $79.5 million. That's a big fall off. Desert Warrior. Pretty much the only reason people didn't predict that Desert Warrior would be a massive flop is
Never heard of
because
it.
they'd never heard of it. This Saudi-funded, Anthony Mackie-led historical action flick started shooting all the way back in September 2021.
Yeah, I remember.
before finally
Okay, yeah.
releasing
No, I
this
did
past
hear,
April.
remember Anthony
The
Mackie
film
was
struggled to
starring in
find a
some
distributor for over 2
random
years after
movie. I
shooting
forgot.
Wrapped, and to make matters
So I
even
did
worse,
actually hear
director
this one.
Rupert Wyatt briefly quit during the editing process due to
Once you mentioned
creative
Anthony Mackie.
differences, before later being coaxed back to return. It's like, I'm leaving. Screw you and this movie. Screw you. Oh, I'll come back. What's the point of that? With an outrageous $150 million budget, making it the most expensive Saudi movie of all time, it was thunderously clear that the film didn't stand a hope in hell of turning a profit. especially with how listlessly it was dumped in cinemas by US distributor Vertical. And that's also to say nothing of the thoroughly terrible reviews it received, which would have undoubtedly led to, like, even the minuscule audience interested in a movie like this wanting to show up for it. How much money did it make, I hear you ask? Well, it made just under $734,000 globally.
Damn.
Terrible. God damn. Did they even crack the mill? Whew. Embarrassing. You hate to be those guys. The Strangers, Chapter 3. There is no better recent example of the law of diminishing returns than many
He must be saving
critically
Supergirl for
panned
last.
The Strangers reboot trilogy.
He's saving
The
Supergirl
three
for
slasher
last.
films were shot back-to-back with a budget of $8.5 million each, and while Chapter 1 grossed a rock-solid sub-$50 million gross, the worst-received Chapter 2 settled at a dire $22 million. With Chapter 2 raking in less than half of what the first did, it was also fair to assume that interest would drop violently off a cliff for Chapter 3, which it, of course, did. Chapter 3 finished its run at a brutal $10.6 million, less than half of what Chapter 2 made, and less than 1/4 of what Chapter 1 posted. Considering that Harlan's films were also widely panned by critics and audiences alike, it was an extremely predictable outcome, and one that's probably tainted the Strangers brand for at least the next decade, until Lionsgate inevitably tries again. In the grey, Guy Ritchie has been on a tear of productivity in recent years, but there's also been a trend for his last few films to get a quiet, cursory theatrical release before being swiftly dumped like a discarded sofa on streaming. And the same was true of his new Henry Cavill and Jake Gyllenhaal starring action thriller In the Grey, which had the additional baggage of malingering in post-production purgatory for the better part of 3 years before finally coming out. That's just terrible. Why would you just leave it like that for 3 years? It's so stupid. So yeah, it wrapped shooting all the way back in October 2023, which gave Ritchie time to film 3 other movies. Fountain of Youth, which was terrible, Wife and Dog, which I haven't seen, and Viva La Madness, which I think is yet to come out, before it hit screens. Furthermore, in late 2025, Lionsgate dropped the US distribution rights, handing them over to Black Bear, who, again, seem to just have box office kryptonite or some curse foisted upon them because they can't seem to make a working movie.
They just get their money from the Russian
and it gets
mafia.
even worse,
I'm
believe it
joking.
or not, because planned reshoots never happened due to the busy schedules of the central cast, which made it abundantly clear this thing was just basically being shoved out the door in a very, very sorry state. But let's get to brass tacks. The film cost $70 million to make. $70 million. And grossed just $23.7 million theatrically, adding yet further evidence to the Guy Ritchie is in his flop era allegations. And also, God, J.A.C, please do something interesting again. It feels like it's been a hot minute now. I hate to see you languishing in Roadhouse and In the Grey. Come on, man. They will kill you. The box office failure of Kirill Sokolov's comedy horror action film They Will Kill You has absolutely nothing to do with its quality, and all to do with marketing and timing. Basically, Warner Brothers made the extremely ill-advised decision to release it just a week after Ready or Not 2, Here I Come, a film that had a not all too dissimilar premise. And while They Will Kill You did have a fun twist that the marketing didn't spoil, WB probably would have been smart to give that wrinkle away to help differentiate it from the aforementioned horror sequel. Just kind of feel like a lose-lose situation there, but just the real answer here was just to delay the movie a little bit and get it to launch in a block, which made more sense. But yeah, between all of that, the lack of star power, and the general wait for streaming vibe it was giving off, it's no surprise at all that They Will Kill You fell a hair short of recouping its low $20 million budget. Thankfully, the film performed better on streaming, but with a few smart decisions for its theatrical rollout, would have surely made considerably more bank. I love boosters.
Ugh.
Even though Boots Riley's 2018 debut, Sorry to Bother You, grossed an impressive $18.3 million against its tiny $3 million
That was a
budget,
good film.
Riley's singular
Oh,
oddball
not
filmmaking
good. It was
style
entertaining.
is a tough commercial nut to crack. All the more so in a post-pandemic landscape where his follow-up feature, crime caper I Love Boosters, cost a far higher $20 million, meaning it needed to gross around $40 million to turn a profit. But even with strong reviews, Riley's film was a tricky sell beyond the most hardcore fans of left field and out there cinema, one with its vague title and marketing that also failed to successfully convey the movie's narrative. With all that said, I Love Boosters ended its run with a gross of just $9.7 million, which even Riley himself noted was a huge disappointment, all while mentioning that it was in the company of other acclaimed flops such as The Wizard of Oz, Citizen Kane, It's a Wonderful Life, The Wiz, Blade Runner, and Fight Club. So, you know, staying humble, I guess. Good luck, have fun, don't die. Gore Verbinski's first feature in almost a full decade received strong reviews from critics and those viewers who actually went out to see it. And it's certainly impressive how much production value Verbinski wrung out of his
Another good reason to end
disciplined
this.
$20 million
So I need
budget, especially considering the whole high-concept sci-fi-ness of it all. But from the moment
use
the
the
first trailer
latrine,
dropped,
as we
it was
said
clear
in the
that
army.
Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't
Once
Die
I'm
would become
done
another
watching
box
this.
office dud. Its sheer weirdness and the trickiness of selling its premise to the masses left it on a huge uphill struggle to turn a profit. It was also distributed by Briarcliff Entertainment, a label with few sizable hits to speak of,
That would be
and
funny.
without a major
need to
star
utilize the
forefront, which
latrine.
is annoying to say because Sam Rockwell should be a major star. There just wasn't a path for the film to perform well theatrically. When it was all said and done, it grossed just shy of $10 million worldwide, failing to claw back even half its price tag, though it has at least performed well on streaming so far, and seems primed to become a cult classic in short order. You, Me, and Tuscany. Though some saw the success of 2023's Anyone But You as proof that the theatrical rom-com was making a glorious comeback, You, Me, and Tuscany's commercial failure posted quite the decisive counter-argument that was just a, no, it isn't. Granted, Reggie Jean Page and Halle Bailey aren't nearly as high-profile talents as Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney, but even accepting that, the trailer has categorically failed to position the film as in any way worthy of a trip to the movies. Look, it's
No one was
often
going
a
to
lazy
the movies to
criticism
see
to
that.
say that a film looks like a Netflix movie, but in this case, the label was absolutely correct. The flat, sterile visual style made it an easy theatrical skip, to say nothing of a setup that seems
It don't even look like a-
inducingly
It don't even look like a
conventional,
Netflix movie. It looks
even
like a
for
Hallmark
genre
movie
as
that someone's
ambitious
mom will
as
watch.
a rom-com.
Looks,
Ultimately, reviews of the film were
this looks like a
fine,
Hallmark
but
movie
it was hardly a
my
shock
mom
when the
will watch
$18
on
million
Hallmark.
budgeted rom-com
She
grossed
watches
just
Hallmark
$22
films,
million
especially around
worldwide. Greenland
fall
to
and Christmas.
Migration. Though 2020's Gerard Butler starring apocalyptic thriller Greenland
It looks like a
grossed
Hallmark
just $52.3 million against its $35 million budget, that was a fairly laudable achievement considering it was sent to cinemas in December 2020, at like the peak of the pandemic. That performance, coupled with estimated video-on-demand grosses of $30 million, prompted a sequel to be swiftly greenlit, and Greenland 2 Migration finally hit cinemas back in January. But 2026 is not 2020, and it's easy to predict box office calamity for a few reasons here. First and foremost, it arrived more than 5 years after the original movie, ensuring the filmmakers were categorically striking, and the iron was cold. Really, you're not going to iron anything with that. Then there's the sequel's outrageously high $90 million budget, ensuring it likely needed to gross upwards of $180 million.
Uh-oh. Looks like it crashed. My Fire TV crashed.
I wasn't
Oh, no, it
always
didn't.
here,
That was a commercial.
but thanks
I
to
thought
Purdue
the
Global,
Fire TV
I
crashed.
got my literal dream job.
This is Jonathan Kahn in my office, and I want to take this time to give, to tell you about, if you don't.
80 million to be considered profitable. Combine this with mediocre reviews and a distinctly different post-pandemic theatrical environment, and it's no surprise that Greenland 2 topped out at a pitiful $44.8 million. Needless to say, you shouldn't expect
he's
Greenland
clearly
3
saving Supergirl for
anytime
last.
soon. Or ever, probably. Supergirl. Even though James Gunn's Superman reboot was a solid box office success to the tune of $618.7 million last summer, that did little to quell doubts about the commercial prospects of follow-up Supergirl. For one, many felt that Gunn probably should have succeeded Superman with either a direct sequel immediately, like Man of Tomorrow, or with a more popular mainstay superhero like Wonder Woman. The film was also aided by a marketing blitz, which largely made the film feel like an ersatz "we have James Gunn at home" type vibe. Couple that with reports on the eve of the movie's release that it struggled through post-production, and mediocre reviews, and there seemed to be little hope of the film turning a profit on its $186 million budget, which, while smaller than Superman's, is still pretty hefty. Ultimately, Supergirl undercut even low industry expectations and is currently estimated to top out at around $130 million worldwide. A disastrous figure, no doubt, that leaves it posting a loss of close to $200 million for WB. And while some may not have expected it to perform quite this badly, it was clear as day that Supergirl's oversized budget left it unlikely to recoup its costs. And also, if you thought that DC were going to learn the right lessons,
of course it's freezing. Like, they made everyone wait to the last minute to the last part of the video to see him lambaste Supergirl